Then there were 6. So far, we have a half dozen contenders in the Liberal leadership race. And these are the people who have met the party's criteria with the required number of signatures and that first installment of $50,000. However, though, their official candidacy is still waiting for the approval of Elections Canada. In alphabetical order, we have Jaime Batiste, Frank Baylis, Mark Carney, Ruby Dalla, Chrystia Freeland, and Karina Gould. Notably missing from that list is backbencher MP Chandra Arya. He released a statement yesterday, writing, in part, "Today I was informed by the Liberal Party of Canada that I will not be permitted to enter the leadership race. While I await the official communication, I am carefully considering my next steps." He goes on to say, the decision raises significant questions about the legitimacy of the leadership race and, by extension, the legitimacy of the next Prime Minister of Canada. We did get a statement from the party about their decision. The Liberal Party's Director of Communications, Parker Lund, said in a statement, "I can confirm that pursuant to Section 4C of the National Leadership Rules, Mr. Arya will not be a candidate for leader of the Liberal Party." Now, that section stipulates that a candidate can be disqualified if the majority of reviewers deem them manifestly unfit for the office of leader of the party. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly has endorsed Mark Carney for leader, and she had this to say in terms of reaction to Arya.
For me, as a Francophone, I thought that what he was saying regarding Francophones across the country was unacceptable, and I expect the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada to be fully bilingual, because we are in a bilingual country. We are the party of official bilingualism, and it is at the core of our DNA.
So, where does this leave the leadership contest? Well, let's bring in the front bench. Former senior advisor to Liberal Ontario governments of Dalton McGuinty and Kathleen Wynne, Dan Moulton. He's now the partner with Crestview Strategy. Shakir Chambers is vice president at Oyster Group. He worked in the Prime Minister Stephen Harper's office before becoming a policy advisor to the International Trade Minister. In studio with me, George Soule, former director of communications for the federal NDP. He's now principal at Syntax Strategic. And Laura Stone is a Queen's Park reporter for the Globe and Mail. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Monday. Dan, I want to start with you on this one. Do you think the party should have been a little bit more clear about the reasons for excluding Arya, or do you think it was clear enough?
I'm not sure it merits a lot of speculation about the reasons for it. The party has the ability to make this decision. They've made it. I'm confident it was for the right reasons, but I don't think it merits a lot of speculation. Frankly, I'm not sure most Canadians have heard of this member of parliament before this process, and I doubt we'll hear very much in the future. Quite frankly, this is a three-way race, a two-way race, really, with the third candidate in Karina Gould. That they're the only ones that are grabbing attention. That is Chrystia Freeland, Mark Carney, and Karina Gould, I think, to an extent, are grabbing attention. They're the only ones who are really factors in this race, the only ones that we really should be spending a lot of time talking about if we're thinking about who's going to be prime minister at the end of this thing. And the reality is, I don't think the party has. Their job is to make sure that there is a robust leadership process, one that ensures the rules are being followed. They've clearly done that here. I think we could probably focus on more pressing issues to Canadians that this Prime Minister is going to deal with.
Shakir, do you agree with that, that now we should really sort of dig deep on these are possibly the top three, even though, of course, everybody else is presenting themselves as a viable option here? Do you think it really does sort of set up as a three-way race right now?
I mean, I think there should be some kind of clarity for why he was disqualified. It seems pretty odd that, party brass could just say, get out of the race, we're going to focus on the others. But I take Dan's point. The party is pretty much focused on three candidates. I would even say focus on one candidate, because the way things are lining up, it looks like it's not going to be much of a competitive leadership race and more of a baton pass to Mark Carney to become the next prime minister. I just think if this person is going to be the prime minister in the next 6 weeks, there definitely should be some questions asked, whether it's about internal party dynamics or whether it's about how you're going to run the country. I see someone like Mark Carney, who seems to be the party favorite, who just seems to be running away from any questions, whether it's on the carbon tax, whether it's on saying he's going to balance the budget in the first term. What does that look like? whether it's even on his social policy. So I think the fact that the person who's going to win this race is going to be in such a powerful position, the media should apply some scrutiny to this candidate or these candidates and make sure they have some clear answers about how they're going to govern this country.
Yeah, and George, especially when you consider the fact that Mark Carney was asked this weekend, what about your policy? How long are you going to take to roll this out? It's a condensed leadership campaign, and he hasn't been putting out a lot of policy planks just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think step one for Mr. Arya, I think to hear Madame Jolie talk about the need for the Liberal leader to be fully bilingual, I think she should have more conversations with Mark Carney in French, because I think he's been stumbling through that quite a bit in some of his interviews. So that's a serious thing, for instance, that more Canadians should know about. And his policies as well. I mean, it's a weird scenario we have, the parliamentary system where the Liberal Party gets to just pick who our Prime Minister is on behalf of our country. So knowing what his policies are and how he plans to actually implement them, and if his leadership campaign will become the Liberal election campaign, I think all these things are things that need to be hammered out in this condensed time, and that really demands lots of questions for folks like you, and it means some debates within the leadership as well.
Yeah, and Laura, it also sort of pushes that question of, when are these candidates going to be in front of media? When are they going to be answering questions? We've seen Mark Carney sort of do it as I don't want to say as a drive-by, but on his way to a car, on his way inside of a building. And then, Chrystia Freeland has been picking and choosing some of the places that she wants to do interviews. And I think it's a really good opportunity to tell her that the seat that George is in is always available to her. Sorry, George, I'd have to kick you out of it. But Laura, what do you think about that and really sort of that struggling of trying to make sure that everybody can sort of distinguish themselves in that condensed amount of time, but at the same time roll out their policies in a way that's effective, that really optimizes any kind of vote from Liberals?
Well, I think absolutely these candidates should face more scrutiny and answer more questions. We're in a completely unique situation in the recent past where the person who is chosen as a Liberal leader will be Prime Minister, albeit probably for a very short amount of time before they take their campaign to the general public, right? There will probably be an election shortly after the Liberal leader is chosen, and they will have to answer those questions in a campaign. But I think absolutely there should be clarity from the top contenders, certainly, about where they stand on these issues. I think it's a little rich for Pierre Poilievre to be kind of lecturing the media about transparency and openness. I've attended some of his press conferences here in the GTA. They limit questions, no follow-ups. They even hold the microphone in front of your face. So I would like to see them potentially do away with that format as well. But Mark Carney, who is the front runner, it seems, in this race, if we're looking at caucus endorsements, should be facing these tough questions and should have to answer for them. We're heading into we're in an insular stage right now in the leadership race where the first deadline has just been met. There's going to be some form of debates, I believe at least 2 debates from the Liberal party. So they are going to have to kind of face each other and face Canadians. But I think that's what makes this, such a unique and challenging race for the Liberal Party, which is they're not just talking to themselves, which you normally are in a party's leadership race. This person is going to hold tremendous power, maybe even just for a few days, but it is crucial that they answer very clearly and talk very clearly to Canadians about exactly where they stand and what their plan is.
Dan, do you think the format of this leadership is not allowing that? I know Chrystia Freeland had said she wants 4 debates, 2 in English, 2 in French. What can the Liberal Party do to really sort of get these people out there more? Or do we just have to sort of let this play out?
Well, I think to start with, the strategic priority of each of the leadership campaigns right now is to connect with Liberal supporters and get more Liberal supporters signed up before the deadline they're about to hit, in terms of getting members into the party to vote for them. Right, that is the focus of these leadership ambitions, these campaigns right now. Their ambition is to secure voters and get them to show up and vote when the time comes. That is the sole sort of focus of what the job they've got to get done. I think the issues Laura raises about connecting with the broader Canadian public, media scrutiny, I think they're all merit, and certainly each of the campaigns will no doubt put a focus on that in the weeks ahead. But in terms of what they've got to get done right now, it gets supporters signed up. I think all the campaigns have been laser focused on that, and we're now going to sort of transition into a different period in the campaign when things like debates, when media interviews are going to start becoming a bigger priority for those campaigns as they look to either shake up perceived momentum in one of the front runners, shake up the race in a way that advantages them. And so I think we'll start to see more tactics like that. But in terms of winning leadership races, it's about members and getting them signed up.
Yeah, and Shakir, I know that you guys were the last party to go through this and to try and make sure that they are signing up as many people as possible. And to Laura's point, thankfully that the Conservatives are arguing on behalf of more openness, and I can only imagine that's going to continue from the Conservatives, right, Shakir?
Of course. So I view it like this. I think, and I'll even give Chrystia Freeland some credit. At least she has a voting record to be accountable on. Pierre Poilievre has his voting record to be accountable on. But Mark Carney has never sat in Parliament. Nobody knows where he stands on a host of issues. I think if he is the party favorite, he's going to be the Prime Minister in about 6 weeks. He owes it to Canadians to articulate some kind of vision, to be clear on where he stands on a whole host of issues. It's much different to be the official leader of the opposition. I think we can all agree that Prime Minister holds much more power than the official leader of the opposition. So I think the position that Mark Carney finds himself in as being the chosen one, if you will, of the Liberal Party, he needs to be very clear on what he's going to do on a host of issues that are going to be impactful to Canadians, whether it's he's going to be in that seat for 2 weeks or 6 months, right? Who knows if he strikes an agreement with the NDP to last longer. He just needs to be clear about what he's going to be doing.
Laura, do you agree with Dan that this is sort of just the different phases, or do you think that they're running more of a front-runner campaign, the Carney team, in trying to minimize exposure?
I think probably both. I mean, these are very insular contests. I mean, the candidates are talking right now to Liberal members and supporters, but I think there's a reason that you're seeing from Chrystia Freeland, for instance, kind of more media statements, more challenges to speak openly, and that I think that's clearly kind of aimed at Mark Carney. And absolutely, he should be clear. I mean, again, this person is going to be Prime Minister. He will have to face the general public in an election, and he's going to have to clarify how he would run the country, kind of being, as Shakir notes, an untested politician. I guess the big question for the Liberal Party coming out of this, I think, is Justin Trudeau's resignation enough to turn the page, or are all the people or all the kind of leading candidates sort of tainted by their time either advising Mr. Trudeau, serving in his cabinet, serving alongside him, and are they, with the general public at least, are they going to be able to move on and present a different vision, or is the public going to kind of take the opportunity to vote against Justin Trudeau even though he's no longer there? I suppose, is the ghost of Justin Trudeau going to continue to linger even after he's gone, because people never really had the chance to express their displeasure? If we're looking at polls at his unpopularities, is the person who's chosen going to be able to move on from that and turn the page? And so they will have to present new ideas and new policies to the public that would differentiate them from Mr. Trudeau and his government.
Yeah, and speaking of turning the page, we're going to turn the page on this subject because we have to take a quick commercial break.